Bittida en morgon innan solen upprann, innan fåglarna började sjunga.
Today, we hang upon the precipice of spiritual death as a folk. This has come about for myriad reasons, but in the final analysis, a people shall survive in direct proportion to its will to resist those elements that are destructive to its existence. A people will live by upholding the ethnic traditions that embolden its folk soul, by abiding and embodying a religion which is in keeping with the values and worldview of said people, and by courageously facing life under these terms, and with these key elements firmly in place. A people shall survive in proportion to its willingness to face and address vital issues that are key to its survival. Anything unhealthy to the cultural organism becomes anathema to a people whose will it is to survive and thrive. There are pockets of resistance to this spiritual death, and these make up the proud and courageous members of the growing number of our folk who embody our indigenous folk ethos and religion. The Black Sun Tribe is one of these pockets of resistance. Our work is a testament to the modern lack of spiritual fortitude and wisdom that exists in our people today, both as an exercise of encouragement and reproach. We hope that our work inspires people to think, to look deep into the spiritual wellspring of our folk's soul, and to strive to align themselves with the greater purpose of our folk and its earthbound mission. In our activism, we demonstrate the diametric opposition to folk values that the Semitic Christian worldview represents, and the understanding that it is only within our indigenous worldview and folkways, not in an alien worldview, that we shall discover the remedy to our current beguilement. The rejection of all injustices, lies, and illusions gives rise to two fronts. If falsehood is the tool of subversion, truth is the victorious weapon of tradition. Truth is not a human product, but exists independently of individuals whose duty it is to grasp it and realize it by means of action in the world. The Black Sun Tribe's mission is, essentially, an experiment of folkish expression and evolution, a Faustian expression, if you will. What we mean by that is that the path of action is the ideal advocated and championed by our tribe. This essence has been called Faustian by many of the thinkers and philosophers in our history, and it is a term which aptly embodies the expression of our folk soul in its self-actualization. The quest for awakening that fire within, so that we may engender a spirit of active participation in the destiny of our people. This is our cause. As the lower self strives toward the higher self, as in Odin's ordeal on the Tree of Life, Yggdrasil, we are enabled to become more refined versions of ourselves. This is our purpose, and all else that we do is an extension of this. On a basic level, we intuit that there are two fundamental ways of living, and thus two fundamental types of society based on this dynamic. There is the material way of living, with individuals striving for or pursuing happiness as the end goal of life, and as an extension, material comfort and wealth. Then there is the way of excellence, of idealism, with individuals striving for an idealistic collective goal as agents of natural progress. We are advocates of spiritual revolution. It is our contention that the life of an individual is better, more fulfilling, if the idealistic goals that are pursued are in accord with the will of nature and of natural law. Thus, one of the fundamental aims of our tribe is in continuing the work of nature by demonstrating to our associates how we may evolve into better, more advanced individuals, thereby creating a better society for us to live in and flourish as a result. There is an undeniable primal instinct in man to seek to prove himself, not only to others, but to himself. The key word here is to prove. Thus, to prove oneself, one must improve. Therefore, the action model and the imperative to improve is the prime motivator for most, if not all, of the activities that the Black Sun tribe engages in. We feel that Odin is the premier god of action, so it goes without saying that for those of us seeking to exert our will onto our greater world, those who seek to participate in changing that world for the better, and to embrace self-development in general, we must make a serious effort to study and understand not only the mind and its power, but Odin himself. Indeed, to understand that thought plus will equals manifestation. Who are you? Why are you? How many times have you posed this question to the person in the mirror? Think on that for a second. Perhaps the answers have been there all along, slumbering within, awaiting recognition. Perhaps you have always known that you are among those that time has forgotten. Or has it? Our path is one of high energy and self-discipline. It is difficult. It is not for the weak, lazy, unaspiring, or dishonorable, but for those who value evolution over stasis, strength over weakness. We encourage them to realize their potential and to water the roots from whence they came. Indeed, we know that this is the only way to perceive where we are going. Our lifestyle embodies the indigenous folkways of those of European descent. We contend that within these parameters, an acknowledgement of the ideals of blood and soil, a deep, wordless love of homeland, and a natural respect and understanding of nature and her gods is a foregone conclusion. There will be no compromise with us on the inherent folkishness of our path. One of the key functions of the Black Sun tribe is to help facilitate the continued awakening of our folk in regards to these folkways in the modern world, and to introduce our people to authentic tribal practices and essence. Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. The impetus of our worldview is the rejection of alien creeds, philosophies, and dogma, that which are harmful to our folk. Through the lens of a folkish worldview, we are provided a practical, blood-rooted way of perceiving the world, and one that gives us the tools to interact with that world in the most healthy and productive way possible. We encourage the individuals that are associated with us to do everything in their power to realize their potential and to align themselves with the cycles and rhythms of the cosmos. Part of the way this is accomplished is simply in being a part of a tribe, embracing religiosity and ritualizing one's life, making it sacred. The men, women, and organizations we are involved with are actively participating in ethnic tribal dynamics. And while we understand that the world around us is declining ever faster toward a generic monoculture, we know that what we are doing is the remedy for the alienation that has been caused by this rootless world. The Black Sun tribe is a holy bondage of men and women that respect the laws of nature, have a deep love and connection with the Faustian spirit, and who harbor an unbreakable loyalty to our ethnic kin. We love our families and our children. We have joined together to give a finite definition to the world and its roots, roots that are bound by blood and ideals which our people have long cherished and upheld as sacred. We honor a multitude of things that the modern world has forgotten, including honor itself. Natural law demonstrates that we have an obligation to our folk as a collective agent of progress. We encourage our people to recognize others of their kind who are most active in working toward this awakening consciousness and progress. In this dynamic, a true comradeship is developed between individuals who are working towards the same cause. For those among our people who do not recognize a responsibility to anyone but themselves, we reject you and will only embrace you when you have realigned your value system with that of your folk. Our folk and our children are our most prized possession. Modern Asatru has seemingly become infected by a virus that is slowly crippling our faith in folk. Very true Asatruar today uphold what it means to be true men and women of honor. Countless individuals and groups today are infected with a universalist take on our folkways, the idea that the world is some pink and padded nursery, where lions can lay down with lambs and everyone can live happily ever after. While these sticky soft heathens attempt to rebel and free themselves from the chains of the Abrahamic desert religions, they remain programmed and enslaved by the religious dogma of the Christ God, fantasizing that Asatru is a religion for the masses, the sheep, and that anyone can belong to their flock. Our worldview cannot be made universal, as it stems from the blood and soil of a particular people. This lifestyle is, in its strictest form, an ideology based on blood of the native population and soil, the homeland of the native population. Protecting, promoting, and reviving the customs, traditions, worldview, values, and religiosity inherent in our gene pool is our foremost imperative. Wolves and sheep can never form a flock. By this logic, we reject universalism in all its forms. Consequently, we are opposed to all forms of internationalism and egalitarianism, be it universalism or cultural Marxism and its many offshoots, including Judeo-Christianity, which we see as the Bolshevism of antiquity. There is no hatred inherent in us. We reject media buzzwords such as racism, hate, white supremacism, bigotry, ad infinitum, and fully recognize that these words have been carefully crafted by the cultural enemies of our people to elicit an emotional response. They have been crafted to disarm us and send us into retreat upon hearing them, so that further investigation and a rational discernment of the situation at hand is halted. The focus on our plight has been blurred by political correctness. We reject the outcries of those who slumber, for loyalty to kin is an inherent part of natural law. As a member of a folk, we have a duty to play a part in the health and self-determination of that folk, and by extension, our families and our tribes. Additionally, the fundamental meaning of our lives as individuals is to strive to continue the work of nature. Purpose-driven individuals intuit that there is something higher than themselves, and we aim to awaken that enthusiasm for purpose and to cultivate it among those of us of like mind and disposition, as well as to foster the kind of personal development that separates the purpose-driven members of our folk from the hangers-on. The essence of the understanding now required, our correct way of being, is to transcend our own egos, our own personal lives, and understand ourselves as a nexus between the past of our folk and its future. We know where we stand, but without a clear point of reference, other members of our folk will never know where they stand in light of the modern spiritual crisis that our people face. We should always endeavor to help them in their awakening and offer a spirit of hope. Control your destiny, or someone else will. The overall goal of our tribe is the development of more focused, determined, self-aware, folk-conscious, and folk-active individuals. It is our aim to encourage the men and women in our fold to work toward minimizing and ultimately nullifying those vices of mind, body, and spirit that would hinder these self-determined goals and cloud awareness of their purpose. We strongly encourage our people to be the best they can be as individuals, so that our folk can be the best it can be. Sick people flee from values and standards, self-discipline, and as a general rule, they embrace herd values and choose friends and associates who will not move them out of their complacency. Addicted to mediocrity, they sit there and get fatter and lazier and more apathetic as our folk fall further into the abyss. True friends will challenge you, and you won't hate them for it. Accepting less than the best we can be will neither gain anything for us as individuals, nor will it aid our folk in its earthbound mission. If you are not living up to your potential, you can, now. If it doesn't exist for you, build it. If you are inspired to help us build, join us. What are you waiting for? Start your world